now I'm going to give you a quick overview on what I'm calling the Success Blueprint. To be successful in LinkedIn, you need a systematic approach. And there's a great quote by Benjamin Franklin, which I'm sure you've heard: if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So you must have a system of blueprint. And LinkedIn is no different. If you just go into LinkedIn, which most people do, and I would be honest, that's how I started. I just went into it without a plan. It's not until you set yourself out a plan that you start going forward. So here are some tips and tricks on how you can create a profitable LinkedIn campaign. You've got to go and set some specific goals that you're trying to achieve with LinkedIn. So that's about having the end goal clear to you. You know, start with the end goal, the same as you do from the Merlin approach. So be very clear about what you're trying to achieve. Now, just for a moment, imagine, now I don't know obviously what stages you're all at, you could all be at different stages, but imagine for a moment, if you were just to make 5 connection requests per day with a 70% success rate, which is easily achievable providing you follow some basic rules and regulations. Even if you started from scratch, you would create a network of 1,000 people from scratch within a year. Now, with more effort, you can make that 10,000. But literally, just by connecting 5 a day, you could have 1,000 people in your network within a year. And, you know, you all have smartphones, don't you? So really, you could be doing this anywhere. You could be doing it while you're waiting for the train, or, you know, in the train. It's easy to do the basics within LinkedIn wherever you are. So there's the challenge for you. Build a network of a minimum of 1,000 people starting from scratch just by making 5 connections a day. Now, to be successful, you really need to be clear about who your ideal client is. So you need to take some time out and think through exactly who you're trying to target. You know, what does your ideal client or customer look like? And if you reverse that for a minute, if that client realized that they needed your goods or services, what would they be searching on? Because again, this comes back to keywords. So you need to almost get in their skin to understand how they would be viewing you. But some key questions that you could look for are, to help you sort of niche down, is, well, what are your target industries? Is there a geographic area that you're targeting? Let's say you're in New York. Should it be Manhattan that you specifically target? What company size is right for you? Are you looking for solopreneurs or Fortune 500 companies? What's right for you? The people you're trying to connect with, what types of positions do they hold? You know, who's the buyer that's going to buy your services? Are they the HR manager? Are they the CEO or the owner? So try and narrow down about who you're trying to connect with. Where would your prospects be within LinkedIn? You know, they're going to be hanging out in groups. Which groups are they likely to be hanging out in? And a great question to ask is, what types of clients do you currently make the most income from? Because if you've got that question nailed, then that's the area you should be trying to promote or search for in LinkedIn. If you're making most of your money, say, from chiropractors, then go out and find more chiropractors in LinkedIn. So who do you make the most money from? This chart will highlight what you need and what you get from that, and that is, you need an optimized profile, which we've spoken about. And what an optimized profile gives you, it is effectively pre-selling clients on you. By having a great profile, visitors to your profile, prospects are going to know a lot about you. They're going to see you as the expert in your area. So therefore, that's pre-selling you. It's also going to give you great exposure in search results, both within LinkedIn and in Google, if you do it right. You need, secondly, a deep network, which we spoke about when we was talking about the 6 degrees of separation. And what that will enable you to do is find more prospects and be found by more. And thirdly, you need to be in effective LinkedIn groups, because what this does is that's providing effectively pre-qualified leads and pre-sold leads. So there are 3 things you need to consider: your optimized profile, a deep network, and LinkedIn groups. Now, there are several ways to prospect within LinkedIn, and I'm just going to touch on 2 of them here, so you've got something to go away with, something solid to go away with. And in fact, one of the questions was about how to do prospecting. There are 2 great ways: are using the advanced search and also by using groups. So with the advanced search option, if you're prospecting with search, you will use the navigation bar at the top of your LinkedIn profile, where I've got this big red arrow. You will put in there the keyword that you're going for. Let's say we're going for accountants. And if you take the advanced search option, it brings up a new page called the advanced people search. You could search on groups as well, but we're searching for people here. Then you can narrow it down by filling out particular boxes. So like, I'm looking for accountants, or I'm looking just in the United States, and I'm looking on a particular postcode. So the more you narrow it down, the more targeted your search results will be. Now, you can have wider searches if you've got a paid account, but the free account is good enough to get you going. My advice is don't go for a paid account until you've maxed yourself out on understanding how LinkedIn works properly with the normal free version. So on this particular search, it narrowed down the search to just 34 accountants in the particular postcode I was going, which gives me a manageable number to prospect. So that is how LinkedIn search would work in a very simplistic way. Obviously, you can do it in a very detailed way by using the various search criteria, but as an overview, that is how you could start to find prospects for your business. The second way I would suggest is you use LinkedIn groups, and there's 2 million groups. So there's groups on virtually anything you can imagine. Now, the thing here is, and you can join 50 groups, and the big mistake that people make is they go and join groups related to their business. So you find that accountants join lots of accounting groups. That's not necessarily the right way to do it. You need to be selective. Of course, you should join some groups related to your type of business, so you are kept up to speed on the latest things happening in your industry, but that's not where your prospects are going to be. If you're an accountant, your prospects are not going to be in accounting groups. Your prospects would be somewhere else. Maybe they're in social media groups, or maybe they're in a local group for Manhattan. So you should join a limited number of groups related to your own business type, so you're kept informed, or a few groups about specific interests you have. But the vast majority of groups, let's say 40 of those 50 groups, should be groups where you expect your prospect to be hanging out. And this is how you do basic search for groups. You would put the group types in the search bar, and I'm just searching for social media here, and it's telling me I've got about 15,000 social media groups, and this top one with the red arrows I'm quite interested in because it's got 5,500 discussions on this month, so I think, yeah, that's good, and it's got 700,000 members. You don't necessarily need to go for big groups. I'm just, using this one as an example. So I joined this group, and by joining the group, it gives you access to the members, and it also gives you access to starting and joining discussions, and that's how you start to get your name out there, how you start promoting yourself, but by promoting yourself in terms of giving content. So I've got to look through the members, and I think I want to connect with Rob, the guy on the bottom. So you can then push the message button, and you can send him a message. Now, you need to grab his attention, you need to personalize it, but you've got access to members in those groups. Now, marketing to groups is a whole subject in itself, so again, I'm only just sort of pointing in a direction, but that's the basis of how you can at least connect with people. But you need to set a strategy for how you then use the messaging systems and how you can really leverage around groups to maximize it. It's all about building relationships. You need your messages to be sort of specific, not spammy, and every message I write is, a specific one. So like, hello John, how are you doing? And on this particular one, I'm just giving you a couple of examples here. This guy didn't have a picture. If you remember, I said you should have a personal picture, but what he had done, it's very clever. He was an artist, and he had an artist impression. So I wrote a personal message saying how I felt he'd broken the mold and what a great idea it was. So write a personal message. And the other one, I was commenting on a guy's article. So all your communication needs to be pure communication. And the real magic happens when you start to try and then move some of these relationships offline. Because if you're selling a high value item, the chances are you might need to talk on the telephone. Depends what you're selling. What I do, as an example, is I move people from LinkedIn to various offline connections I have, such as webinars or reports. It's about trying to provide your connections with something of value. So you need to get people's names and email addresses and put them into an autoresponder system. So LinkedIn is great, but you shouldn't just rely on LinkedIn. You really need to get your connections into a database off of LinkedIn. And you can export details as well, but you really want lots of people to subscribe in return for some information. And here's a 3-step process now to really go and get the 3 steps you need to go and secure business. The first step is setup and planning. The second step is what I'm calling community nurturing. And the third step is top of mind campaign. The step 1 is all about the setup and planning, and there's a great quote by Abraham Lincoln. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. And we've covered some of that sharpening the axe because we've spoken about optimizing your profile and what that would do for you. We've spoken about defining your prospect profile, what's your key targeted prospect. You need to then start planning your campaign development and the content that you're going to start to give out there to show you as an expert in your field. You need to identify and join the relevant groups, so groups where you feel that your prospects are in, and I've suggested you join 40 groups where your prospects are going to be in. And I also spoke about if you were connecting with just 5 people a day, how you could build a database of 1,000 within a year. Now obviously if you want 10,000, you need to be connecting with more than 5 a day. Step 2 is where you nurture your community. And this is where you're providing valuable content, you're involved in discussions, and the whole objective is to start generating leads and position yourself as a leader within your field. Step 3 is about keeping yourself in front of these people, top of mind campaign as I call it. It's about personal messaging and updating your status to keep people informed of what's going on. You need a multi-touch messaging campaign. So you've got messages that you can send out at various stages of your interaction. And then ultimately maybe it's about getting someone on the phone. Only you will know what is right for your business and the value of your offering. But some of the types of messaging that you might want to be involved in are obviously the initial connection, and you've got to make sure it's personal. Maybe you're thanking someone for connecting, linking them to an article. And again, the article doesn't necessarily need to be yours. It may well be that you've seen a great article and you're just sharing it because you think it will help people in the group. So that's a great way of being recognised within the group by sharing someone else's article. And then maybe a request for a telephone call and follow up. Now, what I would also suggest is use any content, repurpose it in other ways. So you could repurpose your content on Twitter or Facebook. So you've done something once, but you could use it multiple times. A couple of things to consider is automation. You can automate some of this, which makes it a lot easier by using tools such as Hootsuite. So you could just once a month actually automate, spend a couple of hours once a month, which would plan your whole month's activity, and then Hootsuite goes and posts this automatically for you, is one way of doing it. The second thing is consider outsourcing in terms of cheap resource overseas, or companies that can actually do some of this for you. There's lots of ways to get things done. So that, just going back, that was the completion of really the Success Blueprint. This is about having a plan and following it through in a regimented fashion, and you will be successful.